The minutes gradually passed as the two friends looked through the book, flipping through the pages with each scan of the text. Camellia frowns with thought. Each time she reached a bit of information that looked to be new, her heart began to swell with excitement. But the feeling was quickly quashed when she discovered it was simply something she'd tried before. She sighed as Michaela flipped another page. Camellia can tell that her friend is peeking at her out of the corner of her eye, no doubt sensing her exhaustion. She hears the maid beginning to stop, so she quickly began to flip through the pages for her.
Camellia...
We're almost done, okay? Just a few more pages. But... She sighs, shaking her head and deciding to go with reason. We should stop anyhow. Lucian should be back by now. Camellia finally looks up from the book, furrowing her brows at the maid. The blonde then nods towards the mantel clock placed nearby. The smallest hand is creeping up to 10, while the largest hand lazily ticked forward once. Camellia sighs, tucking the book underneath the pillow for later. The maid is the first to get up, already heading towards the door of the library. Camellia hurries to catch up to her, joining at her side in little time. While the minutes had previously gone painfully slow, Camellia feels as if time was moving too fast to count out her footsteps. She finds herself speed walking through the hall, barely even huffing out air as Michaela lags behind her. The younger woman looks from room to room, frowning slightly as she held her breath. Quickly, she stomps through the hall, the floorboards creaking underneath her heavy footfalls. She finally allows herself to breathe as she starts to bend over. Michaela comes up next to her, putting a delicate hand on her back with worry. We're going to see him soon. You need to trust in him. I know, but...
Camellia?
The two women look up to see Lucian across the hallway, standing awkwardly among the family photos. He's more ragged than when they last saw him. His complexion is so pale and sickly that he looked ghoulish. The shine in his eyes has become dull, not to mention the way he was looking at them. He looked shell-shocked. It was as if he'd witnessed cold-blooded murder in the 2 hours he'd been gone. Lucian, you're back! Camellia can't help letting out a sigh of relief, though she frowns at the far-off look in his eyes, stepping forward to meet with him. Are you all right? You look sick. What were you even doing with... He waves his hand, trying to brush off the question.
I'm fine.
The young man then smiles at the both of them, meeting them in the middle of the hallway.
What did you two do while I was with Father? I'm assuming it was quite the wait.
Camellia and Michaela glance at each other, then turn back toward Lucian. It wasn't too bad, but I'm more worried about you right now.
I promise it's nothing you need to worry about.
You're trembling. Is he pushing you? The younger D. Parental steps back, his sharp ears pinning back against his skull as the two women look at him with furrowed brows.
I'm not lying. I'm completely fine.
Lucian, you know you can trust us. Can you please just tell us?
Camellia, I...
The young man quickly looks away in anger, guarding himself up.
Never mind.
Luca!
I said never mind. I'm going back to my room.
The two watch him turn, his ponytail whipping down his back before he stalks forward, head sinking and shoulders slacking. Camellia breathes in as she watches him disappear around the corner, not knowing what to do. Even Michaela's comforting presence was dulled by the pervasive sense of worry. The noblewoman wrings her hands, mouth open as she tries to look for what to say. Michaela puts her hands on her hips.
Out with it. I can practically hear the words you're not saying.
He's been getting more and more, off lately. She makes a look of discomfort as she says this. I'm worried the passive approach isn't working. It's been almost 2 years. We can't just wait until he talks.
You might be right.
She puts a hand on Camelia's back and leads her over to the bay window. The two slowly walk over, the noble's gaze fixated on her shoes. She allowed her friend to sit her down, settling her hands in her lap.
All of this is hard on him too, you know.
I know that, but I've been trying my best. But every time I try to support him, he pushes me further and further away. He was never this skittish.
Things haven't exactly been well with your family lately. Besides, he has a lot of responsibility on his shoulders. I saw him with a letter the other day.
A letter?
Green wax seal, gold leaf lettering.
Ring any bells? Camelia's eyes widen. They contacted him? Why didn't he tell us about it?
I don't know. But likely he didn't want us to worry. Little did he know, it just made us worry more.
No wonder he's been trying to improve so much. I can't imagine how he's feeling right now with all this happening at once. She pinches her nose with irritation. I always knew they'd try to pass the title to him, but this soon? He's only 22. Never mind that, but they never sent a message to me or mother.
Well, they haven't been communicating with your mother much at all, it seems. Michaela picks up a book and looks it over.
She grimaces, tracing the title. A book on the history of the kingdom of Himmelstadt.
It makes sense, considering how much they look on her for her upbringing.
Camelia let out an angry sigh. Figures. She rubbed her brow while Michaela continued.
I'm assuming they only sent the call to Lucian once they were in dire straits.
Well, that's to be expected of nobles.
Michaela raises an eyebrow at her and crosses her arms, to which Camelia rolls her eyes with a smirk.
Oh, cut it, you. I know I count, and I hardly claim to be any less self-centered. At least I admit it.
Thank the stars your mother is so eccentric. I don't think I'd like you as much if you were a prissy.
Yeah, because you're the prissy one in this relationship.
It was now Michaela's turn to roll her eyes, prompting a playful smirk from Camelia. Though it was hard to maintain. Even if they were trying to act chipper, the air felt heavy, like a fog of unease was settling in. It was becoming uncomfortable to stay here. Camelia inhales and then gets up, turning toward her friend with a stiff smile.
Maybe we should go somewhere else? Oh, perhaps the garden? You still have to water your flowers, right? I've been meaning to hone my green thumb too.
Camelia... Michaela did not get up, about to speak, before looking across the hallway. Camelia was confused, noticing just how bewildered her friend looked. The noble turns to look at what she was staring at, though saw nothing. Camelia looks back at Michaela, who was now standing. What's wrong? I don't have a good feeling right now. Maybe we should go check on Lucian.
Are you...
She sees how worried Michaela looks, then nods.
Yeah, let's go.
I did say we should take a more active approach. Michaela gives her a shaky smile. The two of them continue forward, walking down the hall. Michaela's movements are oddly robotic. Eventually, they make it to his room. Inside, Camelia can hear Lucian talking to himself. Fearfully, she steps back, turning to Michaela.
You don't think Lucian let him in, do you?
I don't know. What do you think we should do? Camelia hesitates, holding her fist over the door to knock on it. But she takes too long. Michaela decides to just open it, barging into Lucian's room. They see him talking to a doll. I don't know why they don't. Cutting himself off, he shoots up off the ground, staring at the two girls with shock as he backs away. He shouts in fear, clenching his fist.
Do you even know how to knock?
Lucian, we were worried. He growls out through gritted teeth, shuffling in front of the doll.
Yes, worried. Worried enough to burst into my room uninvited. Do you even care about my privacy?
Lucian, it isn't like that. Lucian's ears pin back as he glowers at the two. Camellia begins to tear up as she sees just how he's looking at her.
You know I care about you. Aren't we family? 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 We only share a father, Camellia. Nothing else. Don't talk to her like that. Of course I shouldn't. Because she's perfect, isn't she? She can do everything.
He begins to tear up too out of frustration.
She can do everything I can't. And I'm just expected to sit here ruminating in it.
Camellia is stunned to silence, crying as well.
You don't know what Camelia's been through to protect you, Lucian. I didn't ask for that. I didn't ask to be her brother.
His eyes widen as there's a click from behind him. He looks down to see the door on the doll's stomach creak open, a note inside.
Please don't fight.
The group stares at the doll with bewilderment. The fight completely ceasing. Camellia takes a step back out of confusion, perturbed. Michaela looks slightly surprised, but doesn't seem to be fully as anxious as Camellia. And Lucian is awestruck, his ears pricking up. He then kneels slightly to look at the doll.
I won't fight then, okay?
Another note appears in the open door, spat out through the nothingness.
Yay!
Thank you! Lucian grins as he picks up the note, looking it over. Another pops up.
Fighting is bad.
Don't fight your sister.
Okay, I get it. I won't fight with her, Kalan.
Kalan? Lucian, you know this, doll?
Yeah. I found him on the beach one day. It's amazing that he's alive, though.
Is this why you've been in your room so often? Camelia's eyebrows furrow, Michaela getting closer to her and putting a hand on her shoulder. Meanwhile, Lucian is animatedly looking over the doll and talking to him. Camellia clears her throat, which catches his attention. He turns with a surprised expression.
Why, I've been in my, well, there isn't anyone to talk to. So I started talking to Kalan.
You could have been out spending time with us.
I didn't want to make things worse.
You wouldn't make things worse at all. We'd be happy to just have you there, especially Mom. He turns back toward the desk, looking at one paper folded up. It's a piece of worn parchment tied with gold ribbon.
I know that I haven't been around much, but I want to make up for it.
You don't have to make up for anything.
But look!
Lucian grabs the parchment and unfurls it, pointing at it with a mixture of excitement and desperation.
I was given this map to Kalphos.
Lucian, we talked about this.
But I swear, a man lives on Kalphos that can heal her.
But how do you know that? You've been talking about this man for years, but I've seen no proof. There's another click and whirring noise as another note is spat out. Lucian picks it up, then his eyes widen. Camellia shuffles next to her brother and looks at the note. Tobias? What do you mean, Tobias? The doll whirs a bit before spitting out another note.
My brother. I'm from Kalphos. Looking for him? I told you.
But that's impossible. Kalphos is... Camellia looks to Michaela for help. Michaela seems unsure, walking up to see everything closer.
Father has always told me nothing is impossible.
He said a lot of things. Yes. Hence the reason why I'm skeptical about this.
But he's more knowledgeable than the two of us. You know that. What fools would we be if we didn't take that chance?
We'd be safe fools.
I think we should listen to Lucian.
Camellia turns to look at her with surprise. Michaela is resolute, though her gaze is still firmly fixated on the ground as she continues to explain. I mean, I've certainly seen stranger things in this world. So why not this?
Michaela, you... Another whirring.
If you're going, I can guide you. I'm good at that. That's great!
No, it's not!
As the two stare at her, she curses under her breath.
Merda, I need to think about it. I'll tell you if we can go when I've decided. But that's final! Lucian. He holds his tongue, ears pitting back.
Camellia walks out of the room, leaving both of them behind.
Why this, of all things? Of all things to happen, why now? She sighs, walking down the hallway and to the stairs.
She goes down the stairs to the first floor, walking to the back of the house. She's about to leave through the back exit, but hears talking through the servant quarters. Turning towards it, she heads closer, seeing Mephisto sitting with Maeve on the servant bed. He spots her and gives her a smirk. She turns around to leave, walking down the hallway back to the garden entrance, but as soon as she leaves the house, he's in front of her, looking at some roses.
You're not allowed in the house.
Maeve wished me to stay. Is there anything wrong with that? Besides, your mother didn't say I had to leave.
Well, I'm saying you have to leave. Get out!
He turns toward her with a sneer, straightening up to his full height.
Are you the family head?
She stares back at him, fists clenched in anger.
No. Well now, isn't that quizzical? You telling me what to do.
You had your fun! Why are you still here? What do you even want from me? From Lucian?
He slowly turns back to the roses, stroking the petals of a deep red one.
Who said this had anything to do with you and Lucian?
With a sickening crack, he snaps it off the bush, leaning back up and giving her a grin.
Now, if you will let me, I have a certain crimson-haired beauty to see. Oh, and before I forget...
He manifests a vase and puts the rose in it.
Be a dear and do me a favor. Keep quiet about it. It's what you do best, isn't it?
He walks past her, whistling to himself as she stares off into the distance, shell-shocked. Camellia lays in bed, looking up at the ceiling. It's late at night. She rolls over, looking at the clock as the hands point at 12 a.m. She sighs. There's a knock at the door.
Sprout?
Camellia looks up to the door. Are you okay?
Camellia isn't here. Come back tomorrow.
Dear, it is tomorrow. You want me to wait a full day to see your face?
Camellia rolls her eyes with a smirk.
Fine, you can come in.
There's a click as Marigold opens the door, candlelight highlighting on her henna-dyed locks. She takes a look at her daughter, who is still staring at the ceiling. Marigold sits down on the bed. You've been frowning all day, Sprout. I would have expected you to be happy on your brother's birthday.
Well, yeah, I am, but why did he have to show up? Lucian's had plenty of birthdays, and he's been gone and stayed gone. Now, of all times?
Marigold looks away, eyebrows creasing in annoyance as her husband is brought up. I wasn't pleased about it either, but there wasn't much to be done.
Come on, there must be something, anything.
No, there isn't. As the rest of the continent will tell you, he's Lucian's father. And yours.
You're his wife, though. You married him. How do you even deal with it? Didn't you love him?
Well, I'm grateful to him. He gave me you two. But I'd be lying if I said it didn't weigh on me. She stares off, seeming like she wants to say more. beginning to open her mouth but simply smiles at Camellia.
The pros far outweigh the cons. You and your brother are the two best things that have ever happened to me.
Camellia opens her mouth to protest, but Marigold ruffled her hair, grinning.
But that's enough of that sob story. Go to sleep. After all, you don't want to sleep through breakfast again, do you?
Camellia nods, giving her mother a smile. She reaches out to hug her, but as soon as she wraps her arms around the woman, she dissolves into a mixture of chalk dust and paint. The paint splatters onto the wooden floor, staining the oak wood with henna and blood red. She stares down at it with horror, looking at her hands covered in paint. She then looks up to see Mephisto talking to Lucian's mother with his arm around her waist. She tilts her head, seeing him put a finger to his lips, as the scene transitions once more to her looking at her parents arguing through the cracks of the door, their shadows casting on the wall in firelight. A presence is watching behind her, their bright, ruby eyes glinting in the void. Who are you? What's going on?
Who are you? What are you?
Go away! Leave me alone!
Leave. Go. Marigold is going.
Camellia gives the figure a look of fear. She then wakes up in a sweat, looking at the clock. 4:08. She gets up in a rush, grabbing her candle and opening the door. She didn't have a good feeling. She speeds down the hall to her mother's room. Behind the door, she can hear a choking noise. Immediately, she flings the door open, panicking. She goes to her side, trying to get her bag, but realizes it's not there. Fuck! She then rushes to the end table, remembering what Michaela did earlier. She grabs a vial and leans down to her mother, putting it to the woman's lips with fear. She struggles to get her to drink it, but after a moment, Marigold swallows the medicine and stops choking. Camellia waits for a moment, shell-shocked. Then she trembles, tears coming to her eyes as she leans down onto the bed, sobbing into the sheets. She shakingly grabs onto her mother's hand, which is slowly being crept up with black veins. After a night of not sleeping, only thinking as the sun rises slowly, Camellia gets out of bed and walks down to the hall. She comes to stand in front of Lucian's room, hesitating to knock, before finally letting out a breath and lightly tapping the door. Hey, Lucian. It's me. After she says this, there's quiet, but then there's a gradual rummaging noise as Lucian bumbles to the door. He opens it slightly, looking down at Camellia with annoyance. He begins to open his mouth, ready to give a snarky comment, but she waves her hand. I'm not here to gloat. She then looks down at the floor with shame. I'm here to tell you to get ready.
Ready for what?
To go to Calphos.